Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are jumping into the story of a fictional novel called The Lunar Manuscript. It's an incredible, decade-spanning journey that shows how one person's private heartbreak can actually become a global message of hope.
This line, right from the heart of the book, it just hits you, right? It really sets the stage. It's kind of like an invitation to explore a story that's all about silence, unspoken feelings, and the huge changes that can happen when we finally start listening to ourselves.
So what's the big deal about this book? Well, it's way more than just a book. It's the story of how a bunch of secret poems, literally born from a deep personal heartbreak, grew into this worldwide source of inspiration. Okay, let's start at the very beginning.
All right, so our story kicks off at a university. But, this isn't some grand dramatic romance. Not at all. It's about two people finding each other in those quiet spaces between words, and all those shared moments of silence.
So, let's meet our main players. On one side, you've got Lewis, the poet. His whole world is described in these sort of muted tones. And on the other side, there's Alara, the artist, and she just radiates this luminous strength. Their connection? Well, it was immediate, and it was deep. A real meeting of two very sensitive souls. They had this special spot, a secret rooftop garden. It was their sanctuary. Surrounded by roses, talking about poetry and art, their bond just got deeper and deeper. But, and this is a big but, Louis just couldn't bring himself to say how he felt. It was a confession trapped in his throat, even when Alara basically gives him the perfect opening, asking him about destiny.
But just when things are feeling so solid, destiny, the very thing they were just talking about, it comes crashing in. A really painful separation becomes the kind of unlikely catalyst for a true work of art.
So, Alara gets this incredible news. Her lifelong dream of studying art in Florence is actually happening. It's pure joy for her. But for Louis, wow, as the slide says, it's a dagger to the heart. And yet, he stays quiet. He's not going to be the one to stand in the way of her dream.
So with her gone, what does Louis do? He starts writing. He channels all of that grief onto the page. And the moon, something Alara herself always loved, it completely transforms for him. It's not a shared interest anymore. It becomes his only confidant, a perfect mirror for this love he just can't express.
He's just pouring all this heartbreak into poems and letters. But here's the thing. He knows he's never going to send them. These secret writings, full of all that longing and regret, they become the raw emotional core of what will one day be the Lunar Manuscript.
Okay, so now the story fast forwards. Years go by. Just silence. This whole period for Louis is defined by this really profound loneliness. And then, eventually, a very slow, very deliberate journey toward healing.
And this timeline just lays out how tough this path really was for him. First, Alara leaves and his world just shatters. Then he graduates but ends up in this totally soul-crushing job. A friend finally steps in, which leads him to therapy. And then, years later, he makes this huge decision to go find some closure. And through therapy, Louis has to face this really hard truth, right? He's been completely unable to move on, just clinging to the memory of Alara. It's such a powerful look at how grief can trap us. And it's also a really important reminder that, asking for help, that's a sign of strength. It's how you start the hard work of letting go.
And where does he go to find this closure? Florence, the one city that started all this pain. And you won't believe it, but that's where absolutely everything changes. So picture this. 10 years have passed. 10 years of silence. And then, on a quiet street in a small alleyway, he sees her. It's a scene that's built on a whole decade of unspoken feelings, and it all comes down to just one whispered word.
And in that one moment, boom, all the time, all the distance, it just vanishes. Because she tells him she felt the exact same way all along. So you see, this was never a story of unrequited love. It was unspoken, mutual love, trapped on both sides by fear.
And he's not just supposed to take her word for it. She has proof. It's her old sketchbook. You can think of it as her own version of the manuscript. It's a private journal that shows her side of the story, her own pain, her own longing, and her own fear of shattering their fragile connection if she spoke up.
So you might think, okay, they found each other, happy ending. But no, their reunion isn't the end. It's actually the start of a really powerful new chapter. This is where their private, intensely personal story turns into a public legacy.
You can really see how their story just snowballs into something so much bigger. First, with Alara's encouragement, that private manuscript gets published. Then it just takes off, connecting with people all over the world. That leads them to create a foundation to help others, and finally, they get to build the family of their own they always wanted.
I mean, this is really the heart of it all, isn't it? They took all that pain and they turned it into a real purpose. They transformed their love story into a legacy of hope for so many other people. It's incredible.
And so the Lunar Manuscript leaves us with this final, really thought-provoking question. It takes all of its big themes, love, loss, unspoken feelings, and it kind of holds up a mirror to us, asking us to think about the powerful potential that might be hiding in our own quiet moments.